Welcome to my podcast, where you can listen to interviews, sermons, and much more. Cristo Urbano, the show. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cristo Urbano, the show. I'm very happy, very excited to have my brother, Matt McClane, joining me this time. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, man. Good to see you. I miss you.
It's good to have you here, man. Haven't seen you in a couple of years. It's been what, 3 years?
I know.
4?
It's been about 2. It'll be 2 in a couple of weeks. So I was down there 2 years ago.
2 years.
Yeah, it's been 2.
2 years.
Yeah.
Well,
I had to think a little bit. I was going back in my mind, and I was like, no, we were there in 18.
Matt McClane is a good friend of mine. Matt is used to be a youth pastor at Southside Christian Church in Springfield, Illinois, and now he's one of the pastors in Bloomington, at a church there in Bloomington. It's good to have you here, man. We go from what, 2011, 2010. When was the first time they got to Dominican?
2011. Yeah, so I came down and with your friend Drew, our friend Drew Moore.
Yes.
And
Drew is in Las Vegas now, right?
That was the first time I met you. He's in Las Vegas, man. Yeah, I miss that guy. You should get him on this too.
I know. I gotta send Drew a little message. I haven't talked to Drew, man, in a long time. I miss that guy.
Yeah.
But I'm glad Drew convinced you to come in that trip, man. Because you came down and it was great. Like, we connected. It was a good friendship from day one. You start bringing down your youth group. You hang out with my youth group. You broke some fingers of my kids playing flag football. It's been
Fernando.
a good relationship, man.
Yeah.
How is Ang and the kids? How's the family?
Yeah, we're all good. I mean, I know that you guys, went through the quarantine stuff, and we're just coming out of that here in the States, at least in Illinois. Like, we just kind of moved into a new phase. And so they've been out of school since March, which has been tough. They had to do like school at home, and that was tough. But we're all doing well, man. Like, Anne's doing great. She's awesome. You know that. Just like Lene, we've been lucky to be married to some really great people. And so she's great. The kids are great. So not as cool as Troy, but they try. So
how has your church dealt with the whole quarantine, the whole virus thing? How have you guys adjusted to new life with COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's been hard. We've gone. We're all online. So we've done that since the beginning. So I think like March 15th was the first week we did just online, and we've continued with that. We don't know exactly when that's going to change. Student ministry's been hard because you can't connect with students, so you're doing stuff online. We did something this last month though, like with students, where we would have them sign up and like for a time, and some pastors would go over to their homes with lawn chairs and just sit in their front yard and 6 feet apart and just kind of have a lawn chair conversation. As you know, like sitting outside with people in a lawn chair, there's just something that always brings up like conversation when you do things like that. And with the weather getting nicer, we just decided to do these things called lawn chair moments, where it was super chill, but it just gave us a chance to see a lot of our students and get to see how they're doing, which was good. So we're trying to be creative and do all that, but it's still hard, as there's limitations to what we can do.
Are you guys back in the building now?
Well, staff is like, we went back to our offices, but we're not like having people come in yet. So we're not officially like open yet.
Yeah, it's been a process,
What
man.
about you guys? What do you?
We started. We had a service. We had a service 2 weeks ago, but the cases are going up, so we keep doing things online. Just like you say, since day one of the quarantine, we've been doing our services online. And the good thing that has come out of this, man, is that we never did anything online before, and now we're reaching a lot more people that we didn't reach before. So, right now we're just getting small groups going, like Zoom, Bible studies, and things like that. But things have been good, just different, but good. Something that our audience need to know about you, man, is that you love your youth group. You're a guy that give your heart and soul to the kids that you work with. And for many years, I got to see that when you brought youth groups to the Dominican with Go Ministries. The kids will go back home with a great experience, and everything was good, but everything starts with the leadership. What was your favorite thing about bringing kids to the Dominican in mission trips? Like, a question that I like to ask to friends like you, man, is like, what kept you coming back to the Dominican all those years?
Yeah, that's really good. I think the thing that kept us coming back was that they wanted to go back. And, it's one of those things where I've done a lot of missions trips, and there's times where it's like, yeah, you know what, we just don't want to go back there. And our students were able to connect so well with the teenagers at Central that when they came back, it just felt like family. Honestly, like I remember one of the last years we were going to come down, and the way the schedule looked, it was like we were going to be out. I feel like we were going to be out on the outside of town, and Lene was like, reached out to me, and she's like, "Hey, this is the schedule." It's like, that would be great if we could stay at Central, because I think that our students feel a personal connection with the youth group there, and I'm so glad that would happen, because like those personal connections, one of those things that like language barriers, it doesn't matter, all there is care and Jesus and relationship, and if you have that continually, then that's that mutual partnership that you hear about so often with Go. So
something that a lot of listeners wonder is like, how is the life of a youth minister? You've been a youth minister, man, for a long time. How many years now?
18 years.
18. Whew. Something that
I know, man. I'm
What you say?
I said I'm old.
I wasn't gonna say it, but you said it. It wasn't me. But something that people sometimes don't understand about youth pastors, senior pastors, is the challenges that you guys go through, like when there is a move from a state to another state, to a city to city. How challenging has been that move for you guys, moving from one city to another for this new ministry that you guys are working at now?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because this is my fourth different church. So like, I've seen this happen a few times, and I honestly, like, I really think it takes time for a teenager to trust you, you know. It's different for like when you get into like ages like Troy or like my kids with Rylan, you know. I mean, they're not the same age, but I'll use the two of them as an example with Troy and Rylan. I guess that's kind of weird because they're the firstborn. So does that mean we're leaving out the others? I feel bad about that. But like with them, it's easy for them to trust somebody, you know, like to know that somebody is coming into their lives. I feel like it's easier for them to trust somebody. But when you get into like being 14, 15, 18, new people come into your life, and it's going to be harder for them to believe you, to trust you, to know that you're there. And I think that that's the hardest part about transitioning from one place to another is if you walk in, you know, if there are young youth pastors watching this right now, young people watching this right now, if you walk in expecting you to just walk in and them to just be like, "Oh, you're awesome. I love you. You're great. You're great." Then you're going to be really disappointed because one, I think that's kind of arrogant. You know, it's hard. And two, it just takes time. Like relationships take time. You and I are much better friends than we were in 2013, right? You know, like 7 years of knowing each other. Things take time to process and work through. So I think that that's the hardest part of like transitioning from one place to another. And you know, you guys have some great things going on with church planning, and it's, you know, when a church planner goes into a community and starts a church, you know, it takes time for relationships to be built. So it's the same kind of concept, you know, like just understanding that it's a process, and don't get frustrated if the first 6 months don't work out the way that you thought they would. You know, it just, relationships take time, trust takes time. So that's my thought on that.
And I think, like, you know, part of the reason why I do this podcast is that I want to learn and I want to educate. So when I say I want to educate is there are people out there that are thinking about, man, what would it be like to take a trip to a mission trip? Just listening to you talking about it, you know, they get an idea. You know, like what would it be like for me to move to a different place? You know, like that's why I like to invite guys with experience in the area that I can learn things, and people that are listening at home can learn, you know, from the mistakes from the past, from the experiences that you have gained in the past. You know, we can all learn. One thing that I want to ask, Matt, thinking about what you were saying, is like, what will be a few practices that you will suggest, that you will recommend to a youth minister that came into a new church and is trying to gain the trust of those kids? What three things that you say you should do this, that to get to that place?
Yeah. So somebody told me this once, and I thought it was really good, is that if you walk into a room as a new pastor and you sit there and you say, this is what we're going to do, boom, 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 and you get all these ideas and you just throw it out there, everybody in that room is going to look at you like, who are you? You know, like we don't even know who you are, so why should we believe what you think? And so what I've tried to do is walk into a situation and just say, hey, this is who I am. You know, I want to be totally transparent. I want to get to know you as people. I want to get to know your church. I want to get to know your city. And then when you start asking me, like, because a lot of people will walk up and be like, hey, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And just be like, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a little bit. But how about we get to know each other first? Because they won't trust the plan until they know the person. And so I just think that walking into a city, walking into a situation is really important if they get to know you first as who you are. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
That is awesome, man. They won't they won't follow the plan until they know the person. That's you can apply
Yeah.
that to every area of life, my friend. You know, like that's
Oh,
reality.
for sure.
That's reality. Uh, I think
Yeah.
it was 3 4 years ago, Matt. Um, you came to the Dominican with a different mindset. CrossFit
Mm.
has crossed your life. Uh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
took me to the gym. We went to the gym, and for me, like I I don't have the time that I used to before to like be involved in sports and stay active. So I gotta find other outlets to stay healthy and stuff. And I'm glad I have friends like you that encourage me in that area to like, okay, what are you doing to stay active? Um, to keep our
Mm.
spirit strong, but also like, what are you doing to keep your body active? And you were a good teacher, a good example for me, man. What something that I wanted to ask you is like, how did CrossFit change your mindset? Like, how did doing CrossFit, um, help you get stress out of the way? I don't know how to explain it. Like we as pastors, we had to deal with a lot of things. So like going to the gym, man, and just
Mhm.
spending half hour, an hour, it's just refreshing. Like, how is that for you? How did it affect you?
Yeah. That's really good. Like I would say anything that you can do to help, like give you an outlet is important. And the thing about CrossFit for me was that it put me in a community of people that I cared about, and it also gave me like an outlet to be able to do things physically that I needed. Um, and it's just really important. I needed that at the stage of life that I was in. Like I needed that outlet, and I needed those people. And the cool thing too, like when you get in the gym, and you know this, like you're probably going to cross paths with a lot of people who don't know Jesus. And if you're around people who are doing that, you guys start to understand each other, and it opens up the door for conversations. And I just think that that's important. I'm in a weird place right now, man, where I know you know this, but I had surgery in February, and like I had back surgery, and right now I'm not able to be active really at all. Like I'm not able to do anything. And it's been really hard because I remember the importance of having fitness and an outlet like that in my life, and I don't have that right now, and it's hard. But so it's made me miss it, but it's also made me see the importance. And I know you went through some of that when you had your surgery, when you had your knee surgery. Like when something is taken away from you and there's nothing you can do about it, it's just really, really hard. But it also helps you to remember and get excited about jumping into it again.
When do you think you're gonna be able to jump back in it?
Well, I don't know. Um, I'm taking it slow. They said it'll be at least a year before I'm feeling normal again. You said it was like 2 years for your knee surgery, right? To feel like your knee was strong enough?
For
Or did
me,
you
it
say a
was
year? I
a
forget.
year, a year for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's what they've told me.
but it was definitely difficult, just because I'm used to being active all the time, and all of a sudden, like,
Yeah.
I got to the point where there were things that I need to carry in my house, and my wife was pregnant at the time. So like, if I had a friend that came over to my house, I like, hey, will you lift this for me, please? Like it was a
Yeah.
humbling time too, But I'm glad
Yeah.
that I survived that process, and my knee's better now. Uh, but yeah, man, I remember one of those times that we went to the gym. I was like, man, this guy is a beast. Like, this guy is hitting those weights. Like, I hope you don't die from it, bro. Like, I'm glad you're alive.
Do you remember? Do you remember? So in the CrossFit gym, you can drop the weights
Yes.
and nobody cares. We were in the gym and I had the weights above me and I just dropped them and everybody looked over and here's this gringo dropping weights and you come over and you're like, hey man, we don't do that. You can't do that.
the the whole building
I
was
was
gonna
so embarrassed.
collapse. The whole building was gonna collapse. Another thing, Matt, you know that as pastors, sometimes we tend to give everybody our best, and our family gets the leftovers. You know, I was very convicted with that a couple months ago, and I was like, you know what, I gotta put my family first. You know, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you balance family and ministry? Because something that I heard from a friend of mine was that, like, sometimes as pastors we want to do things for God, but God wants us to do things with God. Like, and sometimes we leave the family behind, and then, like, when we get home we're just tired, we don't want to talk to anybody. How do you balance family and ministry?
Yeah. Well, like Ann and I, we went through like 2.5 years of counseling because I was heading down a path that was not healthy with that, and she was seeing that. She knew that. I was starting to see it, and knew that, and at that point we only had one. We had one kid and another one on the way, and I was just really really worried about it, and so we started seeing a counselor, and one of the things he said, and I'd never thought about this, was sometimes our life is out of whack, and we almost put ministry and our job as number one, even over God and even over ourselves. And so what he said was, the number one priority in your life is your relationship with God. He's like, that as a Christian, that should be number one. You should understand that, even though maybe you don't do it, that should be number one. Number two should be taking care of yourself. And I was like, hold up. Like, no, number two can't be about me. Like, me, I should be number five, like down at the bottom. And he's like, no, because if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're not healthy enough to take care of anybody else. And I was like, oh, that's good. That's interesting. He's like, so number three should be your marriage. So if your relationship with God is good, your relationship with you is good, then your relationship with your marriage is going to be good. It's almost like a waterfall, man, if you think about it like that, And he's like, and then it should be your kids. And a lot of times he said, parents put their kids above their marriage. And what they don't realize is that one day their kids are going to move out, and the parents are going to look at each other and they're like, we don't know how to be married. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, and then, marriages are not healthy. So he's like, number four should be your kids. And then number five should be everything else. Like, if you get 1 through 4 healthy, then everything else will be okay too. And I was like, man, that's a tough way to look at things. But I realize in my life when like Ann and I are not in a good place, it's probably because I'm not in a good place with Jesus, and I'm probably not in a good place with myself. And then, like, if I think like about work, if I'm working too much and my kids like just get the scraps of me, like you said, like, oh, I'm so tired, like when I come home, then they see me valuing ministry over them, and that's not good.
Yeah.
So Ann and I have just been trying to live by the thought of like, okay, me and Jesus need to be good. Me and myself need to be healthy, and then everything else will fall in the line from there.
That's really good, man. I never heard that one before, but that biblically, biblically that makes a lot of sense, because you're supposed to love your neighbor as yourself. So to love your neighbor, you have to love yourself. And to love, when you love yourself, you take care of
Sure.
yourself. You know, so that completely
Yeah.
makes sense there. I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that's true. And you know, for we talk about like things like when something is off, we look at okay, what is it off? Like even with me
Yeah.
and Linnea, like the times where I'm not uh working out, doing any kind of workout, or I'm not reading my Bible, doing my Devo, like it shows in our marriage. You know, just when I stop doing little things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's
It
crazy.
does. And I think a lot of people might look at that. Yeah.
A lot of people might look at that what?
And think it's selfish,
Yeah.
and be like, oh, quit, quit being selfish. But if you do it in a way that's healthy, then it's not selfish. It's for the greater good,
Yeah.
Um, so I just think looking at it like that's important.
And I'm glad that we're talking about this, bro, because something that a lot of ministers that I see that fail in ministry is because of their lack of transparency. You know, like when
Yeah.
when when Jesus, we're supposed to be like Jesus, to follow Jesus, and when uh, Jesus teaches us, you know, like he has a wound in his hands from the cross, and when Thomas was doubting him,
Mm.
you know, he was showing Thomas his wounds, his scars, like, hey, come look, check this out, it's me. But even though Jesus did that,
Yeah.
we tend to hide our scars, hide our wounds, and because we are leaders, we tend to, you know, show the world that there is like we're perfect, we don't have any problems, and that's not the reality. You know, people cannot connect with people that are not transparent. So I'm glad that you are one of those leaders, bro, that is transparent. And when kids look up to leaders like that, they know that they have somebody they can rely on, because it's somebody just like them that makes mistakes, that is learning every day. You know, um, when do you guys think that you guys are gonna open up your church again for the public? Do you guys have a date yet or no?
Well, I don't know, with all the, with the cases rising in different areas. And I mean, it might be September, it might be October. I'm not sure.
Hmm. The good thing, man, is that you guys are doing a good job online. You know, because like we had to work with
Trying.
what we had. Um, one of the one of
Yeah.
the most awesome experiences that I had with you, Matt, was being able to celebrate um, the 10th year of Cristo Urbano Camp.
Oh, yeah.
That was very special that you guys were there for that. Um, how was that experience for you? I know what it was like for me, but how was that for you, man, um, to come for a couple years to help us out with Cristo Urbano Camp? And you might have to tell some of our listeners what Cristo Urbano Camp is. But not only to come for a couple of years to help with that, but to come for the 10th anniversary, which was a huge deal for us. How was that experience for you, man?
Yeah. Well, you get to be a part of something where these teenagers come from all over. And you've brought up in the past, this is one of those situations where that for a few days a student gets to leave their circumstances and stuff behind and come to a location and a camp that is completely focused on Jesus and community. And here I think in the States, that's something, it's like, oh yeah, well, that happens all the time. But to think about it in your context, and these kids in the bates and all around, that come in, it's an amazing opportunity for them. And it's one of those things where honestly, man, like it was a humbling experience, like for me and the other people at Southside, to be able to come in and be a part of it. It was very much an honor to be a part of what God had done and what he was doing, and I still, just yesterday, like I found a set of some dominoes, and I thought about Jose Luis, and I thought about some other friends that I played dominoes with. And you get into those circumstances, and language barriers are there, but smiles outlast that,
Yeah.
and hugs and friendship and all of that outlast any of those barriers. And just feel very fortunate to have had those moments, to be there.
We had like, for people that don't understand, like you say, there are camps that happen here all the time and kids go to. But for kids in Dominican to go to this camp,
Yeah.
they save money all year long. And it's not because it's expensive camp, because it's just like $20 for 3 days, but it's because they're low income, like they don't have much money, so they save all year to go to this camp. And something that I was always impressed by was how the group from Southside Christian Church will come down, man, and they will just rock, like they were so good every year that they came. What do you do, man, to prepare their mindset, to have that mindset of being just like, we're here to help? Like, what do you do before they came down? Because this is something very important for people out there that are leading teams, that one day you're thinking about bringing your team not only to the Dominican, but any mission trip that you're doing. The work before you go to that country, preparing your leaders, your kids, is super important, because that will determine how good of a work you're gonna do once you get to the mission field. So, how was that like for you, man? What did you do to make those trips be awesome?
Yeah. Well, I think being real and being very upfront about the experiences that you're about to have, because when you go to somewhere like the Dominican, and it's one of those things where culturally you're going to experience something different, and that's okay. But if you go in with the same mindset of an American, then you might struggle a little bit, because the American mentality of like, oh, look at us, we're Americans, that's just not fair, like, it's not fair for other countries. It's not okay. And so to prepare somebody for culture changes and cultural awareness and cultural respect is important, to prepare them for basic things like, hey, we're not going to be able to drink the water. We're not going to be able to do this and this and this that you might be accustomed to. But on the flip side of that, there are some amazing opportunities that you will have. Like, you'll have some of the best food you've ever eaten in your life. I would always say that I would gain weight when I'd come down to the DR because of the food. It was amazing. And I just think, like, being honest and open, but going into it. And then also, like, we try to train them for what re-entry looks like, and helping them to understand, like, it's going to be really hard when you come home, because you're going to want to talk about it, and people are going to, like, not understand your experience because you weren't there. So we always tried to give them a 30-day, you just got home, this is how you kind of reacclimate, and also how you process through the experience that you just had, because you don't return to normal when you have an experience like you have with Go. So
Yeah, and because of all that preparation, man, over the years, you guys were able to give us some great interns. So thank you. Thank you for
Oh
that.
yeah.
Uh, I wanted to ask you, man, before I let you go. You were with
Hmm.
us in how many Cristo Urbano camps? Two or three?
Two, and then the 1 year I didn't go, so just two.
Two camps. Okay. Overall, not only camps, but from all the years that you went to the Dominican in trips, what was your favorite experience, man? I know it's a
Um,
tough question because it's probably a lot of different things to pick from, but anything that comes to your mind, like that you were like, man, I would never forget this, whatever.
yeah, I I feel like some of the best moments were those times when everything was done and a day was done and we got to sit down and we just got to debrief and have a conversation with either the missionaries or the team, or the nationals, and just talk about real life stuff,
Mm,
and just hear people's hearts, hear people's thoughts. You think about somebody like, um, you know, Alan, who's now living, in Vegas. But some of the best conversations I've had, about Jesus have been with somebody like Alan, and they didn't happen when we were working necessarily, or when we were, like doing things that we went down to do, like physically.
yeah.
They were just in the moments when we would drive from one space to another, or we would sit down and drink some water together or have a meal together. And I think that those moments are the things that I take with me about my experiences down there, man. And just there was a lot that we got done, but ultimately the relationships are what really matter.
That's good, man. I have to ask you, when are you coming back?
Well, Anne was wanting to come this summer, so I don't know. I mean, obviously that didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But we'll be down. We'll be down there soon, man. I miss everybody, so
That's good,
we'll be
man. You
down there
have to
soon.
you have to make sure you come, and there's a lot of changes that you are going to love, because there's a lot of things, man, that you got to hear the dreams, and now when you come back, you're gonna see the reality.
Of course.
And it's great to see, man, God's faithfulness
Yeah.
um, through it all.
Mm.
Um, I want to finish this time, man, asking you something that I ask a lot of the people that I invite to these interviews. Like, um, you've been in ministry for a lot of years now, and you have been able to impact the lives of a lot of kids. And bro, you're never gonna know the how big of an impact you have made in so many lives. I know that you probably hear one testimony here, another there, from different kids that you work with in the past, but you will never know. It's one of those things that as pastors we spread the seed, and one day God is the one that makes things grow, not us, right? But we're just humble to work for His kingdom. Um, with all the things that you know today in ministry, all the experiences that you have gained, um, what will be something that you wish you would know 18 years ago when you started this journey?
Yeah. Um, I would say I wish I could tell myself you're not as big of a deal as you think you are.
I think
I
that we
think
all,
that,
I think we all start in that boat.
yeah. I wish I could say that to that person. I think that would have saved him a lot of heartache and a lot of pain and probably a lot of stuff in my marriage that, I just wish humility was more of a bigger thing to me then. So
Mm. Well, brother, thanks for your honesty. Thanks for opening your heart. During this time.
yeah.
Um,
Hey, I gotta show you something. So on this bookshelf behind me, I got things that are important to me. Like I just like little things. So I wanted you to see. Check this out, man. Check it out.
Yeah. That's right.
So whenever somebody comes into my office and they ask about things, I make sure to let them know how important you are and your friendship and your country is. So
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate the support, the love that you guys provide to our family, the friendship, you know. And you know that just like we are in your heart, you are also in my heart, bro. I wore this shirt just for you today. And every time that I wear it, I think of you, man.
I'll do that.
Michigan. I know my brother-in-laws are from Michigan. Are not gonna be happy if they see this interview. So I'm gonna make sure they don't see it.
I know.
Well, man, thanks a lot, brother, for this time. Much love and respect for you. We love you. We love Ann. We love the kids. We gotta get together soon. We're gonna be praying for the reopening of your church whenever it happens. I know that the impact that you guys are doing is great, but I believe the best is yet to come, my friend. I believe the impact is gonna be even greater after this whole thing is over. Because during these dark times is when the light of Christ gets to shine the brightest. So I'm glad you are in our team, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad you are part of this team of Jesus. So, any last comments that you would like to say? Any last advice, words of wisdom for the people that are listening to this interview?
No, I just I appreciate you, man, and you talk about me, but the lives that you've impacted are far greater than anything I've done, and I miss you guys, and I'm grateful for you, and I just hope that the young people that are listening understand that the importance of the effect that you and the impact that you're having on them, and it's hard sometimes to see that in the moment, but I hope they continue to see that and they continue to grow under your care and leadership and just vision. So
Thank you, brother. Would you like to pray for us to finish this time?
yeah, I would love to. So let's do that. God, thank you for all that you're doing globally. And Father, thank you that you bring people together and you build relationships and friendships. And it doesn't matter like where we are. We can be right next to each other, or we can be a plane ride away. You still move and you still build relationships. So God, I pray for the ministry, Cristo Abano, and I pray that you would continue to move and do great things in the city of Santiago, in the country of the Dominican, and the island Hispaniola. Amen.
Amen. God bless you, brother, and thank you for giving me this time.
Thanks, man.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to hear more, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can find me in Spotify and Apple Podcasts as Cristo Urbano The Show.